roughest,
We finally here,
toughest,
man. We here.
manliest American to ever fight in the UFC.
Don Frye.
Don Frye.
I'm Don Frye, the Predator, the UFC's two-time world champion.
Don Frye's
The
a real tough
Predator.
guy. He's a champion.
I used to
Hold
fight
on,
back
bro.
when there were men, not pretty boy champions who dye their hair and, for God's sake, paint their toenails.
He is the last of a dying breed.
Everybody in the U.S. been feminized so bad, we ought to be carrying a purse and high heels.
Oh yeah, we here for it. Oh yeah, we here for this one. Oh yeah, he one of them. Oh yeah, he one of them. He ain't going.
Dying breed.
He one of
Everybody in
them.
the U.S. been feminized so bad,
Hold
we
on.
ought to be
Hey
Dye
man.
their hair and, for God's sake, paint their toenails.
He is the last of a dying breed.
Everybody in the U.S. been feminized so bad, we ought to be carrying a purse and high heels.
Has to be putting on makeup and lipstick. They probably do it half the time anyways when they train in.
Don Frye, you're one of the legends, man. Whether you
Don
believe it or
Frye,
not.
man.
Don Frye has one of the greatest stories in MMA history.
All your fights in the UFC were only 1 year?
1 year.
Wow, no shit.
We fight all night long. There are no rules, no weight limits, and no time limits. Tournament fighting.
But no great story escapes tragedy.
He'd severed a spinal cord, so he's dead from, the neck down. He don't deserve that,
This is a tale of the glories and tribulations of unparalleled toughness.
Your reward for winning a fight would be
Oh!
to come back 20 minutes later.
Was that
fight
Butterbean?
again. At the end of the night, you can go to the hospital, or you go to the after party, or if you're tough enough, both.
This is the story of the UFC's first well-rounded MMA fighter.
I'm glad to see some of you made parole to be here tonight.
That is a 50-year-old Don Frye at his UFC Hall of Fame induction.
Don Frye.
Thanking Dan Severn for getting me in the UFC in the first place.
I know what you're thinking. Who the hell is Dan Severn?
First MMA fights I ever saw was UFC 1, 2, 3.
You're about to see something that you have never seen before.
1, 2, 3. Damn, bro, that's insane. UFC, y'all did me dirty, bro. Y'all blocked
The
my video.
Ultimate Fighting Challenge.
In 1994, Don Frye was catching up on this new UFC thing when UFC 4 and 5 rolled around and he noticed an old friend.
That's holy balls. It's old Dan. He was the assistant wrestling coach at Arizona State University my first year.
Would you look at that? Two-time UFC tournament champion and MMA pioneer Dan Severn was Don Frye's wrestling coach in
That's
college.
insane.
Frye was actually a very decorated wrestler. He won the regional Olympic qualifiers in both Greco-Roman and freestyle wrestling, and that wasn't all his combat experience.
When did you box?
When I got out of college, about a year and a half.
Okay, he
pro
got-
boxing. I had 8 fights, and then I picked up the judo, and I competed in judo. And advanced really quickly in that.
So here's a guy with great combat
You coulda
experience
broke his
looking
goddamn
at his
arm.
old coach doing this new UFC thing, and it starts to get really appealing.
I was going through my first divorce, and I figured I could make a few bucks by kicking some ass. Plus, I needed an event real bad.
Don was a fireman and a horseshoe at the time, but he said, "F all that, let's try this UFC thing."
And I called up Dan Severn. I said, "This UFC stuff, can you get me in on it?" And he says, "Yeah, I'll get you some fights. See if you got what it takes." I've been kicked in the head by a horse a few times, so I figured, what the hell? If I could take that, getting punched by a guy in a pair of white pajamas couldn't be so bad. Competition's what, made USA great.
Yo,
We're a great
that's
nation.
insane.
As long as we don't go socialist.
You started out, was like UFC 8? Was that your
Nah, I
first
love
fight?
this guy
First
already.
UFC event was the 8-man tournament at UFC 8, and based on David versus Goliath gimmick, big guy versus little guy.
Don Frye is a Greco-Roman wrestler with over 700 career competition victories and a second-degree black belt in judo. Those who know him call him the Predator.
You were
The
one of the
Predator.
first guys to enter the UFC
That's
that
a crazy
had real
nickname.
polished skills.
When I step into the octagon, my opponent
Word?
will become my prey.
My
So he
first
was-
fight, Thomas Ramirez.
Hold on. So he was the first UFC fighter with he was. So this is the original UFC go.
And I saw the big guy over there and raised his arm, and that looked like the extent of his physical skills. Walked out there, and this big guy come lumbering toward me, and then son of a bitch hit me, cracked my nose. I was like, dang, Frye, get your head out of your ass. You're in a fight. So I put it in gear and got after it then.
You won your first fight by first round knockout.
He
went
knocked him
down.
out.
He went
Sleep.
down hard. And if he wasn't out when I hit him, he was out when his head hit the
I
ground.
remember watching on TV, I'm like, that motherfucker can fight.
It was John
UFC
McCarthy.
record for fastest knockout. That record stood for 10 years.
When you had your first fight, once it was over,
He said
once
that
you won,
record still
were
for
you
10
like, okay, this
years.
is what I'm doing now?
That record still for 10 years. Nah, he's a real. That's a man. He's a man's man.
I love this. This is fun. Back to being competitive.
At 30 years old, Don Frye knocked out Thomas Ramirez
Oh, he was
in
30?
8 seconds. But remember, this is tournament fighting. He wasn't done for the night.
20, 30, 40 minutes in between fights, and there's not much resting there.
Second round was Sam Atkins, big old boy, big old Texan. He had about 50 pounds on me. So I figured, well, I get out there, throw a couple jabs, get him throw a jab, and I'll duck underneath him and take him down.
In your day, even in UFC 8, you were still allowed to fight bare knuckle.
Yeah, but I wore gloves because
Yeah.
I hit hard. Going in an octagon, and it's just you, your skills, and your guts against the other guy's guts and skills. It's the best sport in the world.
Frye's just pummeling away at Atkins. Big John McCarthy ends it right there. Frye, a flurry of power.
Don grounded-pounded Sam Atkins so bad.
Hey, man. I'm glad y'all told me to react to this. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. I'm glad y'all told me to react.
Doctor had to stop it 48 seconds in.
But I ain't
That's
gonna
2
lie.
fights down. So now,
Do y'all think we should bring back the couple fights in the night or keep it how it is? Because the UFC is already one of the greatest things right now. But should they start back with a lot of fights in the night? They should do it like
Don's in
once
the
a year.
finals.
To be a UFC champion, you had to win 3 fights in one night, and that takes true grit. Pranced my way to the octagon, thinking I'm meant to be. I
You
was
look
second
like a
coming of
predator.
Christ, and I saw Gary Goodrich.
Not like a bad, y'all know what I mean.
Holy balls! I thought, damn, you were one big son of a bitch.
The closer he got to me, the bigger he got. They locked the door. There's only one way out of here. I'd probably
There's
lucky I
only one
didn't
way
see
out
what he
here.
did to his first round opponent, or I might have packed my gear and got the hell out of there.
Gary Goodrich is another MMA legend, well known
Hey,
for his ruthless
I
elbows
feel you,
to Paul
dog.
Herrera that night. But they locked Goodrich in there with the Predator.
We had a pretty decent fight.
He grabbed hold
Good
of me,
Rich.
picked me up, slammed me down. I stood up and I smiled at him. I said, well, all right, now we got to go.
Don started pressuring Gary Goodrich with dirty boxing against the cage. Gary didn't like that, so he took Don down, but didn't have good control.
Got on top of me, but I could feel that he was too far ahead. So I went out the back door and flopped him over, and then I got in position and I started whacking on him, but he was done. He's tired, so he tapped.
That's it. It's over. Donnie Frye wins it.
Donnie Frye!
Don Frye wins the David versus Goliath tournament.
Don forced Big Daddy Goodrich to tap from his vicious ground and pound to become the UFC 8 tournament champion. And Don Frye took his win as humble as ever.
Don, in your wildest dreams, do you think as a David you would walk through this tournament, become king of UFC 8?
I knew that I was going to win this tournament.
I won all 3 fights.
I knew that I was going to win this tournament.
Stand up
I love the humbleness, Don. I love it.
fighter that has been effective in the UFC.
I can fight either way. I can go left, I can go right, I can go up, I can go down, I can do it all. There's nothing that I cannot do. This is going to be my career for several years. I will be on top of the game. I'll stay on top of the game.
Don was determined to make the UFC his home, so it was only natural that he would return just 3 months later at UFC 9.
Don Frye, the returning Ultimate Fighting Champion. I'm returning tonight to retain my title.
It's like being a trained attack dog. You have a job, you do it. You see somebody, you kill them.
Don beat the crap out of Amari
Bro.
Bitetti for 9.5 minutes,
Yes, yeah,
bombarding
yeah,
him
Predator.
with vicious punches, elbows, and knees on the ground before the fight was finally stopped.
I think that should do it. I think that's it. That should do it.
UFC 9 was the first UFC event to not feature a tournament style, which they quickly backtracked on. But
So he was just the first dude who just running through people, huh, in the UFC. He was the first Anderson Silva, or the first John Jones, basically. Damn, that's insane, bro. And it's like, he wasn't even, it's crazy how the UFC even came about. Like, he was just like, bro, I'm just fighting.
this meant that this was the only
That's
fight
crazy.
Don was having that night.
Every time we see you, we become more impressed. You're one of the most complete fighters we've seen. Striking, grappling, you seem to have it all. What do you want from the UFC now?
I'd like to fight one of the Gracies. I'd like the honor to fight one of the Gracies. They have a
The
tremendous
Gracies?
Style, but I believe that my style is better.
Don had so much
Ooh,
belief that he
hold
was
on,
the
hold on,
next
I got a
evolution
question. I got a
fighter.
question for the
He
comments.
was calling out
The Gracies. I ain't watched the Gracies yet. We gotta watch the Gracies. But the Gracies are like covenant, like ancient, like they looked at as like gods.
the Gracie family, the ones who started the UFC in the first place.
They
He wouldn't
started
get that honor,
UFC.
of course, but word on the street was UFC 10 was a stacked tournament and was less than 2
They
months
started
away.
it, okay.
And the only thing better than winning one tournament, allegiance to UFC 10. His dog had recently died in an accident, and he was ready to go full John
Damn.
Wick.
I'm not here to say hi.
Full
to
John
anybody.
Wick.
I'm not at rest. I am not at peace. I have a real bad attitude. And when I go into the octagon, lock up your women and children, because all hell is going to break loose.
I fought Mark Hall in the first round. I was overimpressed with myself from UFC 9. The big-headed superstar I was at the time, I thought, poor Mark Hall. He has to fight
Poor
the great
Mark
Don
Hall.
Frye. So I took it easy on him. I took him down, started attacking his ribs like an idiot.
No, I love Don Frye. I just want to hear him talk all day, bro. It's just, you know, something good is about to come out, bro.
Trying to get the dummy to quit.
I need to quit. I need to quit. I can't. You can. Quit. Damn it.
I wasted 10.5 minutes on him until I finally decided to go for the kill.
I think that's going to be it.
I don't think he can allow him to take any more punishment.
Winner of our first bout.
He was telling him to quit.
I find it hilarious that Don Frye was the original Khabib, begging his opponents to quit mid-fight.
Y'all be thinking, nah, bro. Y'all be thinking people be the first people to do this. No, Don Frye said, Khabib took that from me. He took that from me.
And as you'll come to learn, I'm pretty sure Don
You
Frye
must lose.
hates Mark Hall.
You must quit. You must
Before
give
we
up.
can get into that.
I
and
deserve.
Now very tired
I
Don
deserve.
Frye has a fight coming up. What are you changing up for this next bout, Don?
I'm Don Frye. My strategy for this next fight is exactly as the last one. I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to destroy this man.
Alrighty, that's fair enough.
Next round, I fought Brian Johnson. That was a hell of a whooping. First time in my life, I questioned myself, because he was hurting me. He was hurting me bad. Luckily for me, he didn't like getting hit in his pretty face, He went down and I hit him with a couple elbows, and he decided he didn't like that, so he tapped.
Don Frye wins it on the tap out.
Don Frye survives a tough encounter. He looks tired.
He making niggas tap out.
His first fight in the UFC, in my opinion.
Don Frye had now fought a grueling 15 minutes total in his last 2 bouts. He was exhausted.
I remember after I beat Brian Johnson in the finals, the semifinals, I had nothing left. And Coleman was waiting for me in about 12 minutes.
Mark the Hammer Coleman is yet another MMA legend, the godfather of ground and pound.
Damn, Mark Coleman. That's another. Let me know in the comments if we should watch Mark Coleman, man. Heard a lot about Mark Coleman too. And I seen him against, what's the name? I don't know if it was Michael or Fedor.
And a freestyle wrestling Olympian. This was the scariest fight you could take while tired.
Mark was 265 pounds.
He was a monster.
He was a fucking gorilla.
I think I need a lot of luck.
He bigger than Alistair?
A lot of luck.
I've made it to the championship fight. I'll be using my freestyle wrestling skills to bring back the title to Columbus, Ohio.
I'll admit, I almost didn't come out for that final fight with Mark Coleman. Thought about making up excuse pulling out. Weiss did it, Shamrock did it, so maybe I should do it. But then I looked at the guys that they had for it. Shamrock did it, so maybe I should do it. But then I looked at the guys that they had for alternates. Would have been criminal to send one of those kids out there.
I'm Don Frye. I'm here in the finals for another championship. It's all mine, baby. Money in the bank.
So I went back out there and I took my ass whooping just like a man should.
That was the headbutt days too.
Yeah.
You can
when Mark
headbutt?
would get on top of you and get control of you and start smashing his head into your face.
I never once thought about tapping. They didn't pay me to tap. They paid me to fight. Mark Coleman whooped my ass for 9.5 minutes straight. That was my first loss when I fought Coleman.
And that is all. Mark Coleman wins UFC 10 in Birmingham, Alabama.
He just made me realize something that I didn't know about myself. God bless him. He turned me into a man that night, I earned them scars that night. Those are my scars, my injuries. I'm proud of those. I'm so beat up. I'm just a giant bruise from my head to my ass. So I looked up at Dan through my swollen eyes. Well, Dan, thanks for getting me into the UFC. None of this would have happened without you. I watched that fight every day, for about a year. It just ate away at me, just destroyed me. I was obsessed with it. It's all I could think about. Getting back there and get my hands on him. Losing sucks. It's just like my first wife. I never could learn to live with it. I had a bunch of demons that I needed to exercise, prove myself that I was still a man.
Don losing to Mark Coleman was nothing to be ashamed of.
He was
Coleman was
headbutting.
significantly bigger than Frye. But when you see yourself as manly and as tough as Don sees himself, it messes with your self-perception. So Don rebuilt himself over 4 months, planning his revenge against Mark Coleman.
I was in the best
He's
shape
fighting
of
that
my
little
life. I was
ass-
ready to go, boy. I could have
Man,
been super.
bruh. I know that his trainer is like, bruh, this thing is not protecting me, bruh.
Man and Batman. I could have beat anybody they put in front of me.
Unfortunately, Mark Coleman wasn't available for a rematch, but there was another Mark from UFC 10 who raised his hand.
Mark Hall was my first fight that night. I was offered a fight against him in Japan. in November.
Don Frye's a real tough guy. He's a champion. It's my second time to fight him. First time I lost.
Markall was stronger today and quicker.
He was very tough last time too. He's just a tough fighter. It's an honor to fight him. He's a champion, and it's an honor to fight him. I think we have a lot of respect for each other.
Don forearm choked Mark Hall at a Japanese promotion because for Don Frye, if your name is Mark, it's on sight. And speaking of, Don now had an interesting perspective on what happened back at UFC 10.
What happened in Birmingham, Alabama, I just had a bad day of karma. Here it was my night to win. Back in Alabama, it just wasn't my destiny to win. And I cheated destiny twice by beating Mark Hall and Brian Johnson. But in the finals, destiny caught up to me.
Now, Don would return to the UFC 3 weeks later. But before we proceed any further, we have to zoom out for you to truly understand Don the Predator Frye.
When you look at the fighters today versus what you were doing in there, what do you think when you see these young guys in there mixing it up?
I got this well-earned reputation of opening my mouth and not worrying about what tumbles out of it. I think they're a bunch of sissies. They should be wearing purses and, you know, half of them paint their damn toenails. What the hell's that all about?
Everybody in the U.S. been feminized so bad, we ought to be carrying a purse and high heels.
They probably do it half the time anyways when they training.
My goal was to get this far in Hollywood and still have a virgin asshole.
What do you eat for breakfast?
Nails.
Yo.
So you're saying they're not as tough as you and your contemporaries?
Damn right I'm saying that. They're trying to avoid getting hit when you just got to go in there head first and you got to go after the kill.
Don Frye is extraordinarily different in mindset, temperament, and values compared to modern fighters.
You punched a fan.
No, I didn't punch
Oh!
He said we can go outside. I was just like, which way?
And whether or not you agree with what Don says,
I love Don Frye. Which way?
Stop the cap.
or thinks, he has this inescapable charm about him.
What fight for you was one of the toughest fights in your career?
My honeymoon. Shit.
That's his. Oh my good lord. Yeah, he had a good life, a great life.
Battling for 15 years now, you know.
Still going strong though.
Well, it's going, and she's strong, so I guess it's going strong.
Don definitely has his faults, and you'll be well acquainted with them soon. But the combination of
It's going, and she's strong.
Toughness, and unpolished charisma gave us a truly one-of-a-kind character.
Today we're going to do a little bit of word association. I'm going to give you a word, and afterwards I'd like your instantaneous reaction to that. Beer.
More.
People fucking love you, man. They love you because you are you.
Steroids.
More.
You're an unusual guy, Don Frye.
Is there anyone in particular you have your sights set on?
Yeah, that little guy right there.
Blondes.
Oh,
Don Frye, I love
hell of
Don.
a triangle choke to be caught in, right?
Yes, very well said, Don.
You are 100% authentic.
I love
You wear your
Don.
heart on your sleeve. You don't bullshit.
Brunettes.
He is me in my head.
Mean and very demanding, and they don't take bullshit, and they're pretty much unsatisfied all the time.
Are you on TikTok?
No,
Why?
because it's ran by the goddamn commies.
Vanilla ice cream.
Goes good with beer.
You're a fucking real man. You're the real deal, Don Frye.
Thanks, partner.
Driving.
Goes good with beer.
Not a lot of people like you.
Probably good call.
There are definitely not a lot of people like Don. I mean, he's already
Not
had
at all.
8 fights throughout 1996. But with one last tournament in December, he has the opportunity to round out
It's
the year.
all in 1 year?
So I entered the ultimate tournament to prove I was still the best in the world. And that was the best night of my career.
The Ultimate 96 was the most stacked UFC tournament to date. Unfortunately, Mark Coleman pulled out due to health reasons, but it didn't matter. Don was in, and he wanted to get his belt back.
I rematched with Gary Goodridge. We put on a hell of a pace.
Frye and Big Daddy Goodridge essentially dirty boxed against the cage for the majority of the fight. But after an exhausting pace, Goodridge took Frye down to rest while delivering some ground and pound. But Gary was already far too exhausted, so Don swept Goodridge, and once Don got on top, Gary immediately conceded.
Frye grabs the leg. But it's a tap out. Goodrich is exhausted.
He conceded.
Oh, wait
wins it.
An 11-minute fight in the quarterfinals at an exhausting pace was not good. Don needed to make sure the next fight wrapped up very quickly. But it's the toughest tournament to date. Who would he fight?
For some reason, they gave me Mark Hall. I'm like, God damn, this will be the third time I fight that idiot.
It's on site, Don! It's on site! F*** Mark Hall!
Took him down, slammed him down, and then I just went for a shin lock.
And he's looking for a submission.
Don't break it. Ah!
Oh, he's in trouble. Oh,
He got
he might have
A
hurt the
shin
leg, too.
lock? A shin lock? Ah, that sound. Oh. That sounds like it's gonna hurt.
It's a great deal of pain. 20 seconds, that's all it took.
Don submitted Mark Hall in 20 seconds with an ankle lock. But
Ankle
fighters
lock?
like Tank Abbott and even Mark Hall himself claimed that Hall threw the fight.
Fucking guy's going around saying that he took a dive against me at the ultimate.
I think we have a lot of respect for each other.
Him. I'd already beat him twice. He would be the last person in there I wanted to take a dive.
If you ask me, I think Hall was just trying to save face.
Yeah.
And Tank, well, he'd want to discredit Don because of what happened in the finals.
You got beat 3 times in a row.
Holy shit, I remember your fight with Tank. What a fucking fight
Tank
that
who?
was.
Is that Tank Abbott? Everybody in my comments saying watch Tank Abbott, watch Tank Abbott. Is that Tank Abbott? I'm gonna watch him. I'm gonna watch him. He coming. Trust me, he coming. He looks scary though.
Ultimate 2 final. Tank Abbott versus Don Frye.
Tank Abbott was the early bad boy of the UFC and one of the first big stars. And just that night, he delivered one of the scariest knockouts in UFC history to make his way to Don Frye in the finals.
Funny because my older brother Craig.
History to make his way to Don Frye in
Bitch over in the corner, laid
My
out.
older brother Craig. He says, "Whatever you do, dumbass, don't trade punches with him." And bap him right on my ass. I go.
Holy shit, he hurt me. Hurt me so bad, 10 years later, my children were born dizzy. Holy shit, here he goes. He charged at me like a bull. I climbed up that fence as fast as I could.
Don recovered by using his dirty boxing and clinch work to exhaust and off-balance Tank Abbott and get the fight to the ground.
I went down and I got up. He went down, he didn't get up.
Frye trying to sink and choke. And that is it. Frye has won the ultimate.
He choked him out.
96.
Oh my God.
Two-time UFC champion Don Frye. How good does that feel?
Happy as a pig and beating Tank Abbott in a fight like that, choking him out at the top of his game, surviving what he hit me with, that was a hell of an accomplishment to leave the UFC on.
You heard that right. That was technically Don's last fight with the UFC. But the story is far from over.
For that, I moved on from the UFC. I was offered great money to go into pro wrestling.
Go where you're happy and go where you're most comfortable and go for the money.
Don actually had one more random MMA fight in 1997, which he won before basically quitting MMA and becoming a pro wrestling star. But Don didn't know what he was in for.
Thought it'd be easier on the body than fighting for real. You know, I got that one wrong.
Out of all the injuries
so he started wrestling.
that you ever got in your fighting career, was the pro wrestling injuries the worst?
Yeah, I've had probably 5 or 6 major back surgeries, and then probably related 15 to 20 related, you know, because infections and things like that.
The fact that you can still walk at all is kind of amazing.
Pretty lucky, man.
Pretty lucky.
Pro wrestling is probably one of the hardest things that a guy can do athletically.
My neck got broke, my back got broke 4 times, my shoulders have been broken.
At one point,
What the fuck, bro? Why niggas out here pro wrestling, bro? I remember I wanted to be a pro wrestler when I was younger. I used to be off the ropes like Jeff Hardy. On my mama. I ain't bullshit.
Surgery and you had a stroke right afterwards and had to come right back.
I had a stroke, you know, a few years ago.
Oh, shit.
So I get lost, a few years ago.
Oh, shit.
So I get lost sometimes.
Don collected a mountain of injuries after his UFC departure in 1996 due to the strain of pro wrestling.
That
And
pro
while Don
wrestling
was
shit.
making a living, he wasn't satisfying the
And they talk
itch
about it's
of being
fake.
a real
Okay.
fighter. So on September 24th, 2001, Don made his return to MMA, this time in Pride Chips.
He came to Pride.
2 weeks after the 9/11 attacks. One of the proudest moments in my life was carrying Old Glory into that ring. It was amazing, you know, walking there, the flag, having national.
Oh, word?
I was doing this for Osama bin Laden, and I wasn't afraid to do it until I say, shove your jihad up your ass. I was proud to be an American, I still am.
Terrorist sucks. Oh,
Sporting a
man.
Terrorist Suck t-shirt, Don made his return to MMA against Gilbert Ivel. But it wasn't the real Don Frye.
I've been gone for 4 years, and the neck and the leg injuries from pro wrestling had taken a toll on me. I wasn't the same fighter I was in Frye as I was in the UFC.
Look, this fight is hard to watch, mainly because Gilbert is a notoriously dirty fighter, and after repeatedly eye gouging the Predator, the fight was ruled a
Niggas be
DQ.
doing anything.
And squinting through his gouged eyes, the man that Don Frye is said this.
Gilbert's all down. We can do it again, brother. We can do it again.
The guy
I
could
say
have
hell
left Don
no.
blind, but Don is a fighter to his core, which in many ways is admirable, but in others is to his detriment.
How many of those fights do you think you fought when you were on the pain pills?
After Shamrock, everyone.
He fought Shamrock?
Don took pain medications before each of his bouts just to be able to perform. And although he won his fights against Cyril Abidi and Ken Shamrock, it was clear he was burning the candle at both ends.
Are you constantly in
beat Cam
pain right
Shamrock?
now?
No, just 90% of the time.
What kept Frye going was the idea that he would eventually be able to avenge that one loss to Mark Coleman. Both luckily and unluckily for Don, his very next opponent was supposed to be Coleman, but Mark got injured and Don got a new
Mark
opponent
was faking it,
on
man.
1 week's notice.
4 months later, you came back and you fought Yoshihiro Takayama.
Some people say it's one of the best MMA fights ever.
Yoshihiro Takayama was a massive pro
Y'all be
wrestling
telling me
star
to
in
watch that
Japan,
fight.
dipping his toe
Well, I'm scared if I watch that fight, it's gonna get blocked like the other one, bro. The UFC be hating, man. And I think the UFC own prod content now. So I don't know. I'm gonna watch it. If they block it again, I don't know what to tell
to
you.
MMA and now facing the Predator.
He was about 6'5", 6", and weighed 285, you know, right around the 300 mark.
Ain't no motherfucking way I'd have fought him.
Without getting hurt. We were working with jiu-jitsu for 2 weeks, and so I have a secret plan for him.
Don's secret plan was so secret, he must have forgot what it was right before the bell rang.
I didn't know a thing about Takayama going in, but I knew what he was. Oh man, about 5 seconds into the fight. We grabbed each other by the scruff of the neck and just started throwing. You don't get people signing up to do shit like that anymore.
You guys sat there and
Bro!
grabbed each other and punched each other in the face. Looked like 100 times or something like that.
It felt like 100 times.
That was one of the craziest fucking moments in the history of mixed martial arts when you and Takayama were just slamming each other in the head over and over and over again.
Don and Takayama punched each other what looked like over 70 times each in one corner and then transitioned to another corner in the ring
did the same
to
thing?
continue exchanging in the clinch.
You guys literally punched each other in the face for over a minute.
All the history of the sport, that is one of the most iconic exchanges of any two, because you couldn't believe it was happening, and you couldn't believe you guys kept doing it.
God bless him, he was tough, man. Nobody else would have took that, you know. God bless him, he stayed there. He was an all man.
What was going through your head?
I was like, what the hell's keeping this guy up?
He was probably thinking the same thing about you.
This pace was
Real
clearly
talk.
unsustainable. So finally,
That's crazy.
after a break in the action, Don saw an opportunity.
We had gotten to the corner and he locked up on me, went to throw me, and I sidestepped my hips, you know, boom, went on his back. And I don't think there was anything he could do, you know. So the referee stepped in and said, you know, enough of this shit.
It's considered the manliest MMA fight ever.
The manliest.
Yoshihiro Takayama-san. It was all him.
Takayama-san. Arigato.
He was a great, great opponent, you know. God sent him a greatest opponent ever, and that was him.
I have 2 little girls, Katie and Cassie. I'm gonna go home and raise them now. Sayonara.
How about
His wife is amazing looking still.
Takayama-san, powerful individual, great fighter. So powerful. Hit like a mule. Hit like a mule. I saw stars.
I think the bell rang for like a week, you know?
Fucking his head up.
It was a while, man, before everything cleared up.
My wife told me if I ever lose, I have to get a real job. So I can't lose.
Were you and Takayama cool after that?
This is a question we will answer, but it'll have to wait. In the meantime, Don, let me ask you, would you subscribe to my YouTube channel?
I'd rather jump a tall fence and catch my scrotum on a nail. I think
He's talking about to a tall fence and catch my scrotum on a nail is
it'd
insane.
be more enjoyable.
Don, I work hard on these videos, man. More subscribers means I can make more videos.
Shout out to Lionel Richie.
Grow up.
Rivera, I think that's how you say
Kinda
his
making you feel
name.
worse
Shout out to
with
him
this
though.
dude.
This is a hard video. This is a good video.
All right, well, if Don won't subscribe, maybe you will. And remember, I will make more videos on your favorite fighters. And speaking
I
of,
appreciate you.
Frye's head at after that Takayama fight.
That was a fun brawl. It may have been the last time I actually really felt like the Predator.
But you continue to fight after that.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
should have.
Let's just put it out there. You are not done yet, right?
Do I look done?
Don could have left the sport on a high note after that Takayama
Why would
fight
he
in
do
2002.
that?
But at 37 years old and a 15-1 record, he felt like he could keep it going. To be fair to Don, he was winning a few fights here and there against lesser competition. But against his true contemporaries, he was losing worse and worse. Don even got his long-awaited rematch to Mark Coleman in Pride, but lost a decision. Don Frye just couldn't stop fighting.
Getting old sucks. It's really hard to admit to yourself that you're getting older. Just ask Joe Rogan. I try to ignore it getting older at first, but the losses just keep coming anyway.
And you continued to take fights here and there. What year was your last fight?
Towards the end, I lost to people who never should be able to walk into a bar and say that they once beat Don Frye in the fight.
Your last fight was what, 2011? Somewhere around that?
Yes, sir. It was
What?
like 4 or 5 months after my 5th back surgery.
Don Frye kept fighting and kept losing until he was 46 years old, and his life didn't get much better. Don unfortunately suffered from alcoholism, which led to his wife divorcing him in 2016.
The divorce started in 2015, continued in 2016. The divorce wasn't final until 17 or 18.
Then Don's wife took custody of the children, his horse died, and his injuries significantly reduced his quality of life. Don's life kept getting worse and worse. But there was whatever be tied to that kept him going.
Were you and Takayama cool after that?
Absolutely. How are you doing, buddy? I think.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Bro, there's no fucking way, bro. There's no way, gang. There's no way, gang. Shit, bro. That's one thing about doing these fucking vids, bro. I don't be trying to be in my, bro. This is insane.
In 2016, he did a pro wrestling match and severed a spinal cord, so he's dead from, the neck down.
Takayama's unfortunate pro wrestling injuries left him paralyzed, and Don would visit his old friend in the hospital to tell him how he would rewatch their legendary fight every single day to get through the toughest times of his life. And Takayama shared that very same sentiment.
God bless him, man. He don't deserve that,
This is the cruel reality and heartwarming brotherhood we hardly see in our sport. Some people don't make it out unscathed, Frye and Takayama included. But even in the saddest of stories, silver linings do present themselves.
In 2016, you were actually inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame.
I've had more fun in my 50 years than most people could have had in 5,000.
What a crazy life you've lived. I mean, you lived like a movie life.
Don Frye definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame just for the sheer entertainment that he's giving the fans.
He was one of the best to ever step in the octagon. There's no doubt about it.
I've been a fireman. I've been a cowboy. I've been a college wrestler. I've been a pro boxer. I've been a pro wrestler. I've been a fighter and a two-time UFC champion.
For you to go from being a guy who's shoeing horses and working in the fire department, all of a sudden you decide, I could do that, and you take a fight.
He was able to kind of be the forerunner of what we think of today as a complete mixed martial artist.
I'm proud that we kicked open the door so that guys like McGregor, Demetrius Johnson could walk through it later.
And he took a chance against some of the toughest, most badass combat sports athletes of his time.
I'm proud of all those things, but let me tell you about the two things I'm most proud of. Number one, I'm the father of two amazing daughters.
Don Frye, you're one of the legends, man. Whether you believe it or not.
Now, number two on
Straight
the list.
legend, straight God. What you mean?
Don Frye is a UFC Hall of Famer, baby.
Don's like the all-American guy, an absolutely incredible fighter. He left his mark on UFC history.
A dad and a UFC Hall of Famer. No man could ask for a better legacy than that.
It's a crazy life you've lived on, Frye.
It was a fun one. It was
Yeah.
a fun one. The Hall of Fame is the pinnacle of the sport. This means so much to me, man. Thank you very much.
Tell me, was the experience everything you thought it would be?
When you think back on
He shouldn't have wrestled.
the damage that it
That
did to your
dumbass
body.
wrestling.
Breaking your back all those times, all those operations that you have. You know, you have to use a cane now when you walk around.
If you had to go back and do it all again, would you do it again?
Yeah.
Bet your sweet ass.
Crazy, man. I love this man. I love him, bro. That's crazy. And I'm glad y'all told me to watch this, bro. I'm glad y'all told me to watch this, bro. This is good, bro. Stories like this, bro, just make you like have like goosebumps, bro. Like, that's insane, bro. Shout out to him, bro. Straight legend, bro. Hope he's doing good right now. Hope his health is better right now, bro. But shout out to him, man. Like, comment, subscribe. Y'all want to see more UFC GOATs? Y'all want me to discover more legends, man? I ain't gonna lie. The modern era, y'all, I ain't gonna lie. Old heads right, man. Y'all soft. We soft, right? I can keep it. We soft. We are soft. Compared to them, yeah, we soft. Soft. But look, I'm gonna show you in the next video. Y'all already know what's going on, man. No cap.